All right. All right. From time to time, there's going to be a poll question. For those of you who haven't experienced poll questions yet on a Zoom call, periodically, I'm just going to pop up with a little thing that has a question and a couple of answers that you hit A, B, C, or D, or whatever. And that's just going to be to just check in on how we're doing with how the presentation's going at that point. I'll have to stop screen share to do that periodically, but it'll be totally fine. I've got all my little tabs annotated in here. So you'll just select your answer. You'll have maybe 10, 20 seconds max to select your answer. And once we get enough of the answers, then we'll move on. And if an issue appears from the answers in that poll, then I'll address it right then. So we shouldn't get too far with people getting left behind. All right, so first we'll go over before the quake, then we'll do a utility scavenger hunt with a couple of volunteers. Then we'll do the complacency shake-up with Alan Meyer. We'll talk about what to do during a quake, which is a really brief thing, right? And then, whoo, that was a good one. Now what do I do after the quake? And for closing, we'll go over some announcements, some other training that's coming up, vaccines, all that stuff. So we'll also say how to log your hours if you're Campbell CERT to make sure you're logging your training hours. So, alrighty. If you already have Zello downloaded and a profile created, Zello is an app on a smartphone. Please do not download it right now and create a profile right now. But if you already have it downloaded, if you would please go on over to the Campbell CERT Hamann Park channel, written exactly as it's written in the purple on your screen, with that dash and with the capitals where they are and everything. And send me a quick little text, not voice, but like a little text or a picture, something that says that you are able to use the Zello and you're just saying, hey, what's up? All right, because we're going to practice using Zello more and more for the Hamann Park team. When we check in, we're trying to do that so people have another option for checking in if they still have cell phone service, to use their cell phone as a two-way radio in case their radio is not working and they need another option. So I'll go ahead and give people a couple of seconds to do that. And I'll take this moment to say that we are also thinking about, Mark Dunkel is trying to get us FirstNet hubs for our command posts. So in the event of an emergency, we should have a little mobile cell tower essentially with us at our command posts, which would be fantastic. So that's what that's all about. All right, that was good. All right, what to do before, as in right now, as in when we get off this call, you should be taking little notes about the things that you're like, oh, that's a hole in my earthquake prep. I better get that filled ASAP, right? Here is a map that a Hamann Park team member, Afifa, pulled up for the 30-minute PEP bite on earthquakes that we did for non-CERTs a few weeks ago. We'll talk about more about PEP bites at the end. We find this map helpful because it looks at the faults in our area with how our actual utilities are set up, and it projects how long we could be without power and water theoretically when a quake happens on either fault. According to this, it is a fairly safe bet that someone you know, it might be you, will be without power for at least a day and or without clean water for potentially a month or more. Let's focus on that first week. Go bags are for when we gotta go. Stay boxes are for when we can hunker down and stay where we are. Every member of the household should be counted for. Picture yourself sitting on a cot in an evacuation shelter. Close your eyes and go ahead and picture it. You've just been told that you can't go back to your house because the neighborhood's leveled. Potentially your house is gone, you don't know. What are the things that you're going to reach for in that moment? Other than chocolate, of course. What are the things that you're going to reach for? Your cell phone charger, a change of clothes, address book, a favorite stuffed animal from when you were a kid, meds, Skittles, your favorite chamomile vanilla tea. Write this stuff down, whatever's coming to you when your eyes are closed and you're picturing yourself potentially not able to go back to your house ever again, or for a long time, everything's going to be burned by the time you get there. Put that stuff in your kit this week. Don't wait. There's no reason to wait. When you can hunker down and stay safely put, your stay box will have 3 days worth of sustenance for every member of the household. Pets count. So that's lighting, that's batteries for your lighting, battery packs for your electronics that you might need to use. Khaleesi, do not. Khaleesi, thank you. Does that work? Games, non-perishable food, a gallon of water per day per soul, 1 gallon per day per person or animal. Seal it all up in a tub and tape the expiration dates for everything inside the lid. That way you don't have to rifle all the way. Sorry, hold on one second. All right, that cat is scared now. It's not going to come back. Okay. Apologize for that, y'all. Let the dog stay out to hang out, and that's what happened. I love her. Okay. Where were we? Put the expiration dates on the inside of the lid so you don't have to rifle through all your stuff, every year to make sure it's still good. You'll just look at the date and you'll know. Bonus points if you can build it up to a week for your stay box. Poll question number 1. How strong is your disaster prep game? So I will open this up, launch poll. It's my first time doing this, so I'm pretty excited. Go ahead and hit your answer. Cool, 6 people, 8 people, good. I like it. All right, ending poll, that's good. Thank you, guys. And then, how do I get out of there? Do I just hit that? All right, is the poll off of all of your screens? Okay, good. All righty. You've got resources. Apps like Citizen and Nextdoor give you the street level intel, what your neighbors are saying happened, what the people across town are saying happened. And things like the MyShake app, powered by Berkeley Labs, Cal OES, and the USGS Shake Alert. That's also something that can help you, potentially a couple seconds, 10 seconds before the quake happens, if you have a quake headed towards you. The goal of MyShake and of the Shake Alert is to build a global seismic network. You feel a quake, open the app and report it. Are you about to get a quake that was far enough away that they can give you advance warning? You're gonna get a little, like an Amber Alert thing on your phone. Shaking's about to happen, get somewhere safe, right? And you might have 5 seconds, you might have 10 seconds, but if you can get any kind of a warning, it could be really helpful. So feel free to download apps like that and play around with them before a disaster, so you're kind of familiar with at least how it kind of works. Save the emergency broadcast channels on your car radio. On the AM stations, that's 740 or 530 or 810. On the FM station, that's 88.5. Save them so that you can have something to listen to get updates if that's your only source of updates. Know your handheld radio. That's a big deal to know how to know that it's charged or how to get it charged, to know how to turn it on, know how to turn to the correct channel to talk to your team. It's vital that we know that. And if as a CERT you aren't sure about that, please reach out to your team leader tonight after we close up here, email them and say, hey, I need a refresher on radios. Could we do that? And they'll be more than happy to point you in a direction or be right there with you to do a refresher. Oh, and also we've got a cell phone up there in someone's hands, they're texting. Please remember that if cell networks are overloaded, you have a much better chance of getting a text message through to check in on your people than a phone call. Phone calls are almost certainly going to be they're not going to even go through. It's going to do the little failed sound. You're going to be like, oh man. So try to text if it's at all possible to still use the cell network. That's your best bet. Making your game plan. The important part of this is to discuss the plan with your inner circle and practice it once a month until you all know it well. And then practice it at least once a year. Practice it whenever you check your smoke detectors, every 6 months, whatever you do. But don't just make this plan, put it in a drawer and forget about it, because that's not a plan. That's not going to help you. What should happen if you are at work? What should happen if the kids are at school? Do you have a way to transport your pets if evacuation is needed? How do you know that your CERT team has been activated? Brainstorm the options, make your game plan, and this is when you can find out what questions you have if you aren't sure about any of those things. Google things like earthquake putty, earthquake straps, and Alan will talk about the brace and bolt program for house foundations a little bit later. But do things that will make your home more earthquake proof. I put that in the extra credit, but really in California, we should be doing that anyway. So attach your bookcases to the wall. Things like that, especially things that are over your bed. Make sure that your bed is not gonna have stuff that crushes you in the middle of an earthquake, right? Know the vital points of your frequent haunts. That's if you go into the office still, know where the utilities, 2 exits for every room that you're in, if at all possible, and multiple routes to get back to your car in the parking lot to get the heck out of there. And know the danger zones. So in your own house, also utilities, know your multiple exits. If a tree comes down on the back door area, know that you have that garage side door or the front door or whatever, you have options, but think about it ahead of time because you don't want to waste that time in the middle of a disaster trying to calm it down and decide what your options are. You want to try to have some muscle memory built in there. So put that in the plan that you practice. And something that we found out in one of the Los Angeles CERT presentations on earthquakes was checking your insurance. There's a nonprofit called United Policyholders. Their website is uphelp.org. And they apparently will help you find what earthquake insurance or wildfire insurance is available, any insurance is available in your area. And if you have an active claim, they will help you navigate it. And they're a nonprofit. So it's interesting to check out if you're feeling overwhelmed by all the options for insurance in your area and all the crazy prices, whatever. Go to an impartial group and they might be able to help you clear it up. And I put at the bottom there, know your activation protocol. If you aren't clear on your activation protocol, you need to email your team leader right after this as well and ask them. Make sure that you know what it is. And we'll go over towards the end here, we'll go over what Hamann Park's protocol and really Campbell CERT's protocol is for activation and the things that need to be in place in order for us to be covered by the workers' comp, the DSW. All right, utility scavenger hunt. We need a few volunteers to go on a utility scavenger hunt. You're not gonna turn anything on or off. You're not even gonna touch the things. You're just going to visualize them. So this is a chance to get up, move around a little bit. Not everyone has to do it, don't worry. Locate the item that I assign you in 3 minutes or less and return to us once you've gotten a visual. If you can't find it, that's okay. Mark that down on a paper that that's something you're gonna make sure you can find before the end of the week is up, right? Like give yourself a deadline so you can look around maybe when it's less dusk or whatever. So here we've got an image of a breaker box, an image of the water shut off to your house. You got your water heater, your water meter, and your electric meter, or your gas meter. So let's go ahead and do let me stop, I think I need to stop screen share so I can see people raising their hands. Oh, maybe I can just do that. Oh, there, I'm just expanding this window, it's amazing. All right, I believe I have everyone in here. Anyone volunteer? Just raise your hand in the window. If I can see you, then I'll give you something. Okay, George, can you go find your breaker box, please? Anyone else volunteer? Cool. Hey, Janet, you can go ahead. Can you find the gas meter? It's number 5. Anyone else want to go out and take a look at stuff? If somebody whose video isn't on and wants to go and find their water meter, please feel free. Cool, I see Stan. Do you want to go and find the water shut off to your house or to your, all right, it's telling me to ask to unmute, so I don't think I can unmute you.
Oh, it is downstairs to the back. I know exactly, but we're both are.
Oh, perfect, good stuff.
And the circuit.
Good stuff, all right, anyone else?
Mikkel volunteered in the chat.
Oh, Mikkel, oh, cool, I can't see the chat, sorry, thank you for saying that. Go ahead and find your water heater, Mikkel.
My water heater is in the garage.
Nice.
Against the inside wall.
Very good, very good.
Once I found it, what am I supposed to do?
Oh. Just come back here and let us know that you found it.
Hey, I found it.
Yay. Oh, yeah, you weren't sure before, but now you know.
We don't have to
All right.
thing. You trust me? I found my, the gas meters. Yeah.
Fabulous. Good job. Good job,
And I
Janet.
have
All
the
right.
tool to turn them off too.
Nice. That's good. And if we turn off our gas meters, are we going to ever turn them back on without a professional with us?
No, call PG&E.
Yep, call PG&E. It's not worth
Wait.
that liability on yourself.
It's a duplex. I hope my neighbors don't get pissed.
that you're looking at stuff? Nah.
No, that I turn both the meters, because it goes to both of our units. So if I turn it off, they're without gas, right?
Well, you're not turning anything off right now.
No, not now.
But you
but
guys
in
do
an
have separate
emergency.
meters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you should, unless you're paying each other's gas bill.
They're separate.
Cool. All righty. So we got everyone back, it looks like. All right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and slightly minimize that so I can see my screen again. And then we will go on with a poll question. Oh, stop share.
Okay.
Polling. Number 2. Launch that poll. All right, so you should have a poll up on your screen.
Hey, Mommy.
Hey, girl. Oh, Vicky just bought her house, so she's painfully familiar with all of these. Yes, I'm sure those were in-depth checked on.
So Ash, well, I'm going to take advantage of this airspace. I'm marketing the contact me because there's, for a year, I've been looking for the water main, or the water thing, the square in the ground. And I even.
Please be sure to answer that on the poll, because so far nobody has said they need help finding anything.
Oh, I just did. Oh, I'll submit it. I marked it.
Cool. Yeah, and I'll follow up with anyone who asked to be contacted afterwards. Thank you for putting that. Good stuff.
A neighbor thinks it got cemented over.
Well, then the water company would have something to say about that. They want to charge you regularly. All right, cool. So let's make sure everyone. All right, ending the poll. Good stuff, folks. All right. I'll go back to sharing that screen. And we're going to now be moving on to, actually, I won't share the screen because it's Alan's turn for the complacency shakeup. So let's go ahead. I'll mute myself, and Alan, it's all you.
I'm unmuted if you hear me. Okay, this is Alan here in Campbell CERT. I attended the 2020 Academy. As you know, the training manual in the training academy covers all the various kinds of disasters and situations that happen in our country. But as Ashley mentioned, the priority for us is earthquakes, and I offer to help make the emphasis on that and say some more about it. So I'm going to give a little short presentation by, I think what I have to do is share the screen and get it started. I should have had it going, shouldn't I? Slideshow, here we go. Play from start. So just going to talk a little bit about the science that I think you might like to know, a little bit of the science about it. What's been said recently by, for example, the US Geological Survey about what might be likely here in our area. Some effects of earthquakes to anticipate and how to react to that. It sounds like Ashley might say some more about that, but there's no harm in saying that quite a bit about what to do in those important moments during and right after an earthquake. And finally, in terms of preparation, because I've done it myself, I wanted to put in a quick plug for the brace and bolt program. Let's see if we can, how does this go? That should be the next slide. Slide number 2. The title comes from a legend in Japan. The Japanese used to think not too long ago that earthquakes were caused by giant underground catfish thrashing around. Actually, the current model is called in modern geology is called the elastic rebound model. The strain builds up where blocks of earth on either side of a fault are in contact and in pressure against each other, but they are slowly, continually moving and building up strain. As the diagram shows, the rock is actually getting flexed, and eventually there is a rupture, a break that releases that strain. It might not release all of it, and that's an earthquake. After that happens, part of the model is that the strain resumes building up again. It's not a one-time deal. We know that earthquakes, small and large, happen over and over on these active faults. You commonly hear reference to the epicenter, which is the geographic surface position where the earthquake started. In actuality, the earthquakes really start down below the surface at some depth. They may be quite a ways down, but it turns out in California, here in California, the focus, as it's called, where the earthquake actually originates, is relatively shallow compared to other places in the world. They may be only a few miles deep, 5 or 10 miles down. Once the rupture begins there, it spreads out along the fault plane, as it's called, the imaginary plane, not really imaginary, the plane of weakness. It spreads quite fast along the fault plane at a couple miles a second. It may go 10 miles, it may go as much as 100 miles or more. For such a long rupture, earthquake waves are being generated all along the rupture. And when it's a very long rupture, then you get a very long duration of shaking and can get very strong shaking. I'm going to move on to the next slide one way or another. Let's see. So we saw a map like this a few minutes ago. We are in what you can think of as the jaws of scissors or bear trap. We have these two very active faults running down the length of the East Bay, the Hayward Fault and Calaveras Fault. They're highlighted in yellow. Also, of course, the famous or infamous San Andreas Fault running down near San Francisco and along the peninsula coastal foothills. I've marked just a couple of examples of earthquakes that have happened there. As you see, they straddle the Santa Clara Valley, and either one is where these will continue to happen in the future. The big 06 quake near San Francisco, almost a strong one in Hayward, a little farther back. When that one occurred, it was referred to as the Great San Francisco Earthquake until the 1906 occurred. Another big one in the Fremont-Milpitas area on the Hayward Fault, and so on. It so happens, this is a very small number of statistics, but it so happens that in the last 50 years, since 1970, 5 of the 7 strong earthquakes in the Bay Area were on East Bay faults. Don't know if this is a trend. This is small number of statistics. It could also mean that the San Andreas is biding its time and is going to take its turn next. You see also the Loma Prieta quake marked down there near Santa Cruz, but it had effects even, as you know, up in San Francisco. Let's see. So yes, big earthquakes happen all over California, including in our area. This little map shows the recent couple dozen strong ones. The graph has the time, the past 200 years along the x-axis. Let's see, actually, if I can do this. So we go from about 1811 to the present. And this is energy, not magnitude. You typically hear magnitude. People always want to know right away what the magnitude is. This is a number that measures energy released. And the point of this is that in the last 200 years, here in California, there have been a number of earthquakes, as you see, much more energetic in terms of actual energy released into the earth than the Loma Prieta quake, the small one over here in 1989. You see the famous 1906 earthquake, hundreds of times stronger. These stronger quakes, actually the numbers are more like now 13 out of 20 some coming up to the current date. About half of them in the last 200 years. There are spells, of course, there are decades where nothing happens, and then they happen. So they are random. And of course, as you see, the relatively small ones are much more often, but the big ones do occur and will continue to occur. These stronger ones last longer. They may last for several minutes, certainly longer than you can hold your breath. This is the most recent attempt by the USGS to provide some kind of answer when people ask when's the next big one. By looking at statistics on the Bay Area faults, they can say that basically somewhere in the Bay Area within the next 20 odd years, the odds are about 3 out of 4 that there will be a quake comparable to the Loma Prieta quake or larger. The table shows that for a pretty big quake, if you will, a 6 or larger, it's almost certain that there will be one in the Bay Area. Ironically, in spite of the fame of the San Andreas fault, if you look at these percentages, it's really about 3 times more likely that any of these anticipated earthquakes may occur on an East Bay fault, Calaveras or Hayward fault. Either way, we are down here, as mentioned, in the jaws of the bear trap, in between one or the other. And it's a regional effect when it happens, so we are definitely in proximity to a possible occurrence. Earthquakes, when they're strong, you can actually even see or feel the different kinds of waves they generate. The first to come along are the P waves, followed by the stronger S waves, which can give you, if you're aware of this, a little bit of warning, a few seconds warning. And my analogy here is in war movies, the grenade in the foxhole. You see in the movie, the enemy grenade lands in the foxhole and all the soldiers jump right out. If you feel some shaking, it could be just these P waves, and you might have a few seconds or 10 or 15 seconds before the stronger S waves. These are actual traces from seismometers in the Marina District in San Francisco from the Loma Prieta quake. The top of the 3 was on bedrock, the other 2 were on sand or landfill. So again, the strength depends, strength of the effects also depend on what kind of ground you're on. The time difference between when these first waves arrive and the stronger S wave depends on how far away. The S waves are slower. So if you're only 20 miles away, it's only a few seconds. If you're 50 miles away from a strong quake, you might have 8 seconds between when you first feel it and when it starts to really shake strongly. The cat sensed the P waves. He came into the kitchen to see what's going on. Then the S waves hit and everything starts moving around. I'll let it play a few times so you can catch on to what's going on. So the cat doesn't have any magic sense. He just feels the little P waves. I hope you're seeing this okay. And then you can see the S waves hit and everything starts really shaking around. From the time difference between when the cat comes running in and when you see everything start really shaking, I can estimate that the earthquake focus was about 30 miles away on in this event. This is a more recent quake. Let's see if I can get this to play. This is in a classroom in Anchorage, Alaska, November 2018. Oh, it didn't. Teachers talking to the students with a slide projector. They feel the P waves. They do what they should. They get under their desks and they're holding on. Then the S waves hit. Fortunately, nothing fell down, but they're in a safe place. Lights go out for a bit, come back on. And it goes on shaking for perhaps another 20 to 30 seconds. I'm going to stop it there. They stayed under their desks for several minutes until they were sure things were quiet, nothing was going to fall, and then they evacuate the building in an orderly fashion, fire drill fashion. So The takeaway point of all this is don't wait to see if the shaking is going to go away. Assume that it will get worse. Assume that you're feeling the initial mild P waves and then the stronger S waves are going to arrive any moment. You know the mantra, duck, cover, and hold on, and get to the nearest table. A lot of people get hurt in earthquakes if they try to go to some ideal place at the other end of the house or the other end of the building, floor of the building. If you're in bed at night, in bed, cover your head. Just stay there, put a pillow over your head. If it's not bad, do this anyway. Don't be embarrassed, just practice it anyway. And Ashley earlier mentioned Shake Alert. That could give you a little bit even earlier warning. Get the My Shakeout. Finally, another important kind of prediction, if you will, earthquakes can be predicted. There are aftershocks after quakes. Very frequently, right after and then tapering off. There will be, as there are with earthquakes in general, a lot of small quakes. There will be some moderate ones. There may be a few about as strong as the initial quake. There was very recently a very strong quake in Ridgecrest, and then there was a slightly stronger one the next day. The initial quake may damage some things, may damage buildings, may damage houses, your utilities. It may weaken them, it may put cracks in pipes and so on. These weakened structures and infrastructure may actually fail during the aftershocks. So that's something very important to keep in mind. This compounds the risk and danger in the response and the damage assessment and search and rescue. And it also affects people psychologically. They become very nervous and uneasy when they realize that they're going to continue to be earthquakes after that first one, which was the big surprise, then the others start coming along. I wanted to briefly mention liquefaction. It's not likely here, but there is some risk of it even here in this part of Santa Clara Valley. This is basically where the shaking acts like a gold miner's gold pan. It causes the earth to settle and the groundwater to come to the surface. It becomes like a muddy flood. During the earthquakes or during the aftershocks, you can get jets of mud squirting up in the air and sinkholes forming that you can fall into in strong quakes. So the brace and bolt program. Last slide. This is a program provided by the state of California. I'm emphasizing this because I visited Christchurch, New Zealand, and saw many homes like ours shifted off their foundation. The house looks fine at first glance, but all the utilities are severed, renders the house unlivable. The California program provides half the cost of doing this, putting these braces you see on here to firmly connect your house's structure to the concrete mud sill. They provide up to 3,000. Our house, we did it. They put on about 20 or 30 of these braces, about 5 or 6 feet apart. The cost in our case was $6,000, and the program paid for half of it. I checked the website. Registration's currently closed, but may soon resume. So there's the link. Earthquake brace and bolt. Earthquake brace bolt is the key word. So takeaway points. It is likely 3 out of 4 that within about the next 20, 25 years, a strong quake will occur in the Bay Area, comparable to Loma Prieta or stronger, and much stronger can happen, as you have seen. They have happened historically, and they will happen in the future. Remember this mantra: duck, cover, and hold on promptly. Go to the nearest place where you can get under something to shelter you and ride it out. It could go on for several minutes. People in the Alaska 64 quake, they got tired of waiting for it. They thought it was never going to end. And expect aftershocks. If you're starting your CERT activities, it could happen at any time, and it can be pretty strong, about as strong as the first one. And check your crawl space somehow, see if you need the braces. Older homes, newer homes may be okay, but older homes probably do need it. That's it.
Right on. Thank you, Alan. Good stuff. Yeah, Alan's daughter, I don't know if you said it in the beginning, but she works in earthquakes. So it's perfect. She doesn't make them happen. She studies them. So it's just fantastic to have him on our team and be able to, he reads the books on it all the time and has chats with her to learn stuff, and very cool. Thank you so much. All right, I'll go on. I don't see any new questions in the chat box. Let's see, there we go. So let's go ahead and do a little share screen action. All right, we're gonna review a little bit what to do during, because there's all sorts of stuff that you will think, I should have done this before. But if you remember nothing else from this class, what you do during the quake could be very beneficial to you. So let's look at this. If you're inside, keep it small. You yourself get small and hold on to something that can help protect your head, if possible, like if this person's getting under a table, something sturdy. If you were in the kitchen cooking or had some appliances on, turn off the stove. Try not to have like active fire already out there for stuff to fall onto and burn your kitchen up. If you're in a wheelchair, lock your wheelchair, protect your head. Always protect your head and neck, because that's how you're going to be able to make the good decisions after the quake is stopped, or even while it's still going, if it's going for way longer than you thought, where you're going to keep your brain intact so you can keep on using your logic and using your observations and your senses. Do not run. Some people used to say, want to run out of the building because it's safer outside than inside. That's not necessarily true. So you don't want to run. You have more chance of tripping and falling and hitting your head, for instance, if you do that while everything's moving. So hunker down against an inside wall if possible, under something sturdy. Keep your eyes up for in case something's gonna fall on you. Don't get right next to the bookcase. Keep your fingers out of door jams. We used to say, in fact, when we were studying up for the 30-minute bite we did a couple weeks ago for non-certs, I was like, oh yeah, get in a doorway. And one of our members who just came from Sunnyvale as a trainer was like, no, that's how you get your fingers smashed in a door jam. I was like, oh, that's a good point. So that's one of those old things that I hadn't thought about. If you have like pocket doors, you're good to go. But you know, if you aren't sure, if you don't want to have to look, see what you have, you know, just get into a good space under a table, put your hands over your head, protect your neck. And always look out for those unstable objects. If you're outdoors, think wide open spaces. You want to get low. You want to try to keep on doing a bit of a 360, looking around, looking up, look down. If you're driving, if it's safe to do so, slow down, pull over and park, leave your seatbelt on. That means stay in the vehicle and put your flashers on, whatever, but just ride it out right there where you are. And when the shaking seems to have stopped, make your next plan of action, right? Might be getting on your cell phone and starting to text your people and saying where everyone is. And you don't want to do that while you're driving. So it'll be good that you're already in park. Protect your head and neck again. Try to get away from power poles, buildings, bridges, things that can fall. I'll let you guys look at this graphic for a moment. It's time to say goodnight for bedtime. I'm going to give someone a quick little kiss and I'll be right back. Kira says good night, everybody. All right. Love you, girl.
Good night.
All right. Love you.
Come on, Kira.
There we go. Thanks, babe. All right. After the shaking stops, now what? One thing I wanted to cover was tsunamis. If you were near a body of water, we're all going down to Santa Cruz all the time in the summer. You may not even feel the earthquake. It may not be an earthquake that happened here. It may be one that happened in Alaska, in Japan, somewhere else, somewhere in the middle of the ocean. So when a tsunami builds up, it may be less than a foot on the surface of the open ocean that it's raised, which is why it can go right by people in boats and they may not even realize it. And it's going 500 miles an hour or so. And once it hits shallower water, someone slams the brakes on to like 20 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour. So that's why the water just suddenly starts to come up and over and just will rise. Most tsunamis are going to be less than 10 feet high. They can be as high as 100 feet. And it's not just one wave. It's not, oh, that first wave came through, now I can get back down to the beach. No, it's a wave train is what they call it, because of those S waves, the P waves and the S waves that Alan was talking about. So you're going to have them one after the other after the other. If the water runs away, I heard Mikal on our Hamann Park team, she said this when we were doing our pet bite. I think it was you, Mikal. If the water runs away, you run the other way. Because anytime that you telltale signs, if the water in a large body of water recedes really quickly, you'd be like, what, where did it go? Get out of there, because it's building up to come back with force. And you're never going to outrun a tsunami. You got to find higher ground. The National Weather Service puts the entire West Coast at high to very high tsunami risk. But to be honest, most of that is in the northern part of California, Eureka, Crescent City. They do have some that happen in Southern California as well, though, but we're clearly, it's a possibility to happen here too. Stephen Ward, a professor of Earth and Planetary Sciences at UC Santa Cruz, says that it's not like a splash and dash. When the water comes in, it's going to flood. It would feel like a 12-hour tidal cycle packed into 1 hour. And it will do as much damage when it goes back out as it drags along cars and debris as it did when it came in. So keep that in mind. The first direction it went, you climbed a tree or whatever. Okay, don't come back down thinking that it looks calmer now. I'm gonna go, wait till it pulls everything back out past you, if you can, right? You're going to do your assessment of how it went. Afterwards, you're gonna assess your situation. The biggest advice that we can give you after the shaking stops is only move as fast as you can ensure scene safety around you, because everything that was before is potentially not the same now. If you get hurt, it is harder for you to help others. And we're on CERT, for those of us here, most of us should be in a CERT team. You're here because you want to help others. So be cautious. New hazards have appeared in a matter of minutes. You want to check yourself and others nearby for injuries. And something we do in the fire service and in various other services, it's called a CAN report. So when everything's chaotic, doing a CAN report periodically helps you kind of make sense of the chaos and have a focus in the chaos. CAN stands for conditions, actions, and needs. What condition is my body or environment in? What actions do I need to take to improve my situation? And what resources do I need to accomplish that? And that's going to change from moment to moment. But if you can at least start to pinpoint what's one of the issues I have right now that needs to be addressed? What can I do to help address it? What tools do I need to do that? And that helps you just start to get on a path for a plan for something to make your situation better. Do a utilities check and evacuate if any serious issues are detected. And locate your gear, your go bag, your stay box, your CERT backpack, if possible. Hopefully it is, and make it accessible. Because if there's an aftershock that takes out your garage and all your stuff was right there in the garage, that's gonna not be great. So move slowly. Oh, I didn't say it out loud. Find sturdy footwear ASAP. A bunch of our members are taught to keep an old pair of shoes with socks under their bed in case an earthquake or some kind of disaster happens at night, a fire or whatever, because you don't want to be barefoot running through broken glass or stepping over the Lego box that fell over, even if there wasn't an earthquake. So make sure that you are aware of that stuff. Look up, look down, look all around. That's something that we should all be doing multiple times during the regular day anyway, for just self-awareness. Is there venting gas on fire? Sort of in the picture that you see to the side with the propane tank that it's venting and has some fire impinging underneath it, which is what's making it vent and would also caught it on fire. Leave it alone. You'd rather know exactly where that gas is and that it's already burning off and get the heck out of there than to blow out that fire, or not to blow it out, right, in that case, but like to put water on and blow up, extinguish that fire, and now the gas is just building up in your area looking for another source of ignition to boom. And you don't, yeah, that's not good. If you have a class A or B, that means like paper, plastic, anything burning that's not energized, or metal, and you feel you can handle it safely, it's a small fire, like a pot on the stove size, go for it if you feel safe doing so. Otherwise, just evacuate and evacuate loudly and call for 911. Make sure everyone else in the house and around you knows we're getting out of here, and call 911 because you don't want to inhale all that bad smoke. All right, now we get down to business. We did the assessments, we did our CAN reports, we checked our utilities, all this stuff. Now we're going to put our disaster plan that we have practiced till it was a knee-jerk reaction. We're putting that into effect. You're going to have to make some adaptations probably, because we can't say exactly how a disaster is going to pan out, but you can do that because you have planned it and you already have your questions answered. So you have a better chance of figuring it out. You're going to text your inner circle for their status. You're going to check in with your out of area contact. You're going to tune in for updates. That's on your apps, that's on your AM/FM radio that you saved the emergency broadcast channels. And if it's applicable, you're going to get to your meeting place that you and your people all decided you would meet at. And by your people, I mean like people that live in your household with you, or like if you have some other, like maybe the people in your building all are in a group, like to practice together. So you're all going to meet out there and do a head count. Whatever your people means, your best friends, whatever. Cover your CERT bases. Tune your handheld to, and this is some examples. You either can turn on your CERT radio and tune to your team's channel that your team has already pre-designated as where you all will check in within 30 minutes of an earthquake or something like that. Or use your cell phone, if you have access to it, to either text your team lead a short message with your status, or use Zello, which you also have your cell phone for, to text your neighborhood channel with your status. And then that's only if your neighborhood uses those things, right? It's whatever your neighborhood has planned on doing. So don't try to just like jump on Zello and no one on your team is on Zello. That's useless, obviously. So stay safe and be ready. Be honest with yourself too about whether you are ready to respond to help others yet if your team does get activated, because you might have some more stuff to clean up. I don't mean like to sweep up. I mean like you need to get some more stuff squared away before you can maybe step away from the people that you're with. So don't tell your team leader that you're ready. I can respond at a moment's notice and then be like, oh, I need another hour, because they're making their plans based on their team's availability. CERT activation. This is going to be Hamann Park style, more or less. And a lot of our stuff comes from Campbell PD's and the Aries team's description of how activation goes. So bear with us. This may not be the case for your team where you are, but it's just an idea of how some things can go. Here's the scenario. We've got a major earthquake, 6.0 on the Richter. Things are falling off shelves. Heavy furniture is moved. Or you simply get a text from Alert SCC or the team lead saying, hey, we're activated. What's your status? So per Campbell PD, that means we are go, because DSW is in play as soon as we get an activation number. And DSW, again, is disaster service workers. So the workers' comp in case we get injured while helping others in our community. You're going to follow instructions. So if the instruction is meet us at the ICP within the next hour, that's your instruction. Bring your gear if your team deploys anywhere, if your team goes anywhere. If they say meet me somewhere, bring your gear with you. There's no reason to leave it at your house. You're going to help people. You're going to need your CERT backpack. You're going to need your go bag and some snacks. Let's be real. So, but if your instructions are stay where you are and do the good you can there, then there you go. You don't need to even bother moving out of your house, right? Every situation could be different. If setting up the incident command post is the plan, our team will establish radio contact with the city EOC and or nearby neighborhoods as we begin to execute our plan. Data collection or whatever it may be, just setting up a reception area for people in the neighborhood who are displaced, whatever. And here's a note about DSW stuff. And you can see at the bottom, this is taken straight from the Santa Clara County Aries Races Fundamentals of Emergency Communications. So as I said before, it's DSW is the state workers' comp fund, provides things like a death benefit, wage continuation, medical treatment. It's a limited liability protections when acting within the scope of your training. That needs to sink in, within the scope of your CERT training. That's how CERT insurance is going to cover you if you happen to get injured or something. Be sure your emergency contact is aware that you have this coverage when you're activated. It is helpful at the hospital if when you go to the hospital that you can say this is workers' comp, and then they take out a whole different set of papers, so different forms to fill out that get you in the system right from the start without having any bill to you, theoretically. So I've never tested it with DSW with CERT, so I can't say for sure, but that's how it's supposed to go on paper. When am I covered? All these things. When you're registered as a CERT with the city and you've been activated, you have an activation number and you're assigned, which is assigned by an authority. In our case, it's Campbell PD. And while performing duties that you have been trained on only, and while performing under supervision, meaning that you're reachable at all times. And which is why we set up the radio with the EOC at our ICPs, so that we are technically reachable at all times. And if you're traveling to or from a drill, you're not covered if you get in an accident or something. by DSW at least. If you're traveling to or from a real activation, that is covered. So know those couple of points. And I believe that that's the state workers' comp fund. So it's not that, this part right here is not Campbell specific to my knowledge, but check with your team and make sure everyone knows what this is, because it's important. We all have jobs we need to get back to once the disaster has been mitigated. We all have bills we have to pay. And it's very important to make sure that you are taking care of yourself, your livelihood, your family in the best way you can. All right, let's talk about personal accountability for a second. I know you're all muted, but when I ask the question, who is in charge of safety? The answer should be me. Everyone should raise their hands. I am in charge of safety, because you can't say, oh, I just walked off that curb while texting. That guy was supposed to tell me there was a curb there. No, clearly we are all the ones who need to be the IC of safety at all times, looking around, up, look down, look all around. When you are activated, documentation is key. Individuals will keep an ICS 214 from the point of activation till deactivation. You're going to be detailed. You're going to register at the check-in log at the CP first thing, and you're going to use your team assignment log while assigned to a specific team. And you're going to write down that activation number the minute it comes in. Have your go bags and CERT gear squared away today, because no one else is going to do it for you, right? We know this. Don't forget to pack stuff for your pets and have a plan for getting them out safely too. And consider the weight and size of your go bags and CERT backpack. If you would rather have your stuff in a luggage bag with wheels on it, because that's just better for the heavy stuff you have in there, be real, just do that. There's no shame in that game. Everyone's going to be jealous that you have wheels that you're rolling around your heavy stuff in and that they put theirs on their back. So do what's best for you. All right, we have a poll question, number 4. We're going to pull up, if I pull this down. I think it's as of this minute. Yes, okay, let's go. Launched. And Stanley, you should be able to just, in the same email address at knox796 at Gmail, you should be able to just hit that same link. It should still work.
Unfortunately, the email, I don't get the same email on my laptop because it was inactive for a long time.
Okay, let's just not worry about the computer then. Let's just stick to the phone. Is that okay?
Okay, fine.
Cool, thank you. Appreciate you. All right, cool. We've got good answers here. Awesome. All right, good. Some people have questions and they're going to just make sure that they reach out before we end tonight. All right, cool. Going back to sharing screen. You guys doing great. We're making great headway here. All right. We're at the closing part. So contact us anytime at hamanparkcert@gmail.com. Go visit the website for our 501c3 organization, campbellcert.org, that all of our neighborhoods in Campbell run under. They have their stuff together. It's really awesome to actually be a 501c3 and have access to grant monies and to all these other resources that other teams have some access to, but Campbell really maximizes through a lot of hard work and a lot of sifting through grant possibilities. They really make it happen. So in closing, I want to talk about really quickly the Great Shakeout. Hamann Park, I've signed us up. I'm trying to get Campbell to, I think they're going to agree to this just fine. We're going to do our big drill on 10/21. And at 10:21 a.m., we're going to have a big earthquake happen. All right. So 10:21 at 10:21 in the morning. And we'll have more information about that. But that will either be the start of a big drill for us for the day, where we do a couple hours of, if we can meet in person at that point, who knows, or if we can't, then we'll just do the shakeout. That's totally fine. Wherever we are, we'll duck down, we'll check in on Zello, we'll do the whole thing that we just talked about that Hamann Park would do if we had a disaster. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. If you want to put that in your calendars, 10:21 at 10:21. The next PEP bite, which is tailored for non-CERTs. That's all of your neighbors, family members, coworkers who are not CERT trained, but who you want to make sure they're not all turning to you for water and food and underwear when the earthquake happens. You want to make sure they have some idea of how to be prepared. Talk them into signing up for our next our next pep bite, and we'll have the pep bite for earthquakes posted soon on the Campbell website as well, campbellcert.org. But our next one, our 30-minute bite, is going to be on public safety power shutoffs. And that's just in time for these winds to start turning into dry weather and hot summer weather, and PG&E having to turn off our power grids for a day or more at a time. We'll have a list of all the resources that are available to everybody. And I highly recommend this one actually for certs and non-certs, because in doing the research for this one, I am learning a ton. And I just think it would be really beneficial. So that'll be May 1st at 10 a.m. We keep these things, are called bites because they're just a bite of the 3-hour and a little bit of an expansion upon the 3-hour personal disaster preparedness course that Santa Clara County Fire puts on. So we also take our curriculum from Listos, California, which if you haven't been to listoscalifornia.org, that's one of the state programs that's trying to help everyone with disaster prep. It has a lot of great resources too. So 30 minutes.